Ray Griffiths said, when troubleshooting a problem on your car, start with the simplest and cheapest solution first and work your way up the list. So on this episode of 2 Minute Thursdays, I'm going to explain Ray's theory, also issue an apology, explain why this is the last episode of 2 Minute Thursdays, and most importantly, who the hell is Ray Griffiths? I'm not even going to bother with my timer today because I know I'm going to go over 2 minutes. So let's kick things off. In my previous video on 2 Minute Thursdays, I showed you an example of using an additive in your coolant system to prevent a leak. I was wrong, maybe. Yeah, I was wrong. And I want to apologize for that. I spent the weekend flushing the coolant system on my E53 to get rid of the oil in the coolant system and in preparation for installing the new coolant reservoir and radiator cap and things like that. And the problem of having oil in the system still persisted. It turns out I have a leak in the oil cooler, which is allowing oil to seep into the coolant. Now, it didn't seem that was possible because I had no indication that I had coolant in the oil. I only had oil in the coolant. But it turns out that's what the problem is. So my example of what can happen when you use additives in your coolant system was not accurate. And for that, I apologize. But I will stand behind my statement that using an additive to fix a problem rather than actually fixing the core root of the problem is still not a good idea. You're better off just fixing the problem and using an additive like that simply to get you out of trouble so that you can get home and effectively get the problem fixed. I do apologize that was misleading and it was not my intention, and let's move on from there. Ray Griffiths and troubleshooting problems. Start with the simplest and cheapest solution first and work your way up the list. What does that mean? If you've worked on cars, or if you're in the process of learning to work on cars, you'll know that when you're faced with a problem, quite often it's not entirely evident exactly what the cause is. And for whatever reason, our head goes straight to it's got to be this, or it's got to be this, and you tend to immediately think of the worst case scenario. By following what Ray says, by starting at the simplest and cheapest solution first, it allows you to focus your attention on working through the process without immediately spending hundreds or thousands of dollars and then still having the problem persist. You can start at the simplest and cheapest possible cause, and you never know. That might fix the problem and it saved you thousands. Now, the other thing I want to touch on, this will be the last episode of 2 Minute Thursdays. I'm going to replace 2 Minute Thursdays with 5 Minute Fridays because I can't do this in 2 minutes. I tend to waffle, and a lot of what I've got to say can't be easily condensed into a 2-minute video. So it was a nice thought, but it just wasn't practical. From next week, 2 Minute Thursdays will be 5 Minute Fridays, and naturally they're going to be on a Friday, and that's Friday Australian Eastern Standard Time. Still a short, sharp insight to what's going on in my garage and my views on car maintenance and DIY and things like that, and any other topic which you may want to contribute to. So there is a comment section below. You can leave a comment and give me some suggestions in terms of what you want to hear about, and I'll take that on board, and you never know, you might be on camera. Let's get on to the important one. Who the hell's Ray Griffiths? For that, I need to go back about, crikey, it's almost 40 years now. When I was about 20, I got a job as an assistant storeman for the Australian Gaslight Company, or the gas company, and the warehouse supervisor, or my boss, was Ray Griffiths. And he was a crusty old man. He was an ex-quartermaster in the army. He was an old, weathery man who lived on bourbon and Marlboro cigarettes. And he had dark leathered skin. He was a skinny bugger, and and didn't eat a lot, but was prone to the cigarettes and the drinking, but a really nice bloke, and a guy who spent his life working on cars and motorbikes. He wasn't a mechanic by any means, but he'd encountered pretty much most problems over his 50 or 60 years of working on things. So he was always a useful resource as a 20-year-old starting to work out on cars. Often I would speak to him while we were working about the problems I'd had with my car or what I wanted to do with my car, and he was always willing to provide advice and suggestions and things like that. So a really great resource and a really nice guy once you got past that crustiness. So that piece of advice that he gave me 40 years ago, I'm now sharing with you. I did learn, however, that he wasn't so good with his advice on personal relationships. Yeah. Mechanical things? Yeah, really good. Dealing with people and things like that? Maybe not so good. So that's who Ray Griffiths was. It was 40 years ago, but he had a big impact on my life, and I was very privileged to have had the opportunity to know him and work with him for 3 or 4 years. So yeah, thanks Ray, and this one's for you. That's our 2 Minute Thursday for today. Don't forget to hit that like button, because if you do, it really helps out my channel. And please leave us some comments below in terms of what you think of Ray's advice and any feedback that you'd like to give other viewers in terms of working on your E46 or with your car that may relate to the topic that we've talked about. If you haven't subscribed to the channel as yet, and if you'd like to see more content about my supercharged E46 and my X5 BMW and my Yamaha R6, how about you consider subscribing and ringing the bell so you get a notification every time I upload a new video. As always, I've really enjoyed your company. Thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. And until we meet again, look after yourselves, stay safe, and TTFN.